This episode of the Totally Rad Show is brought to you by Click It or Ticket. Coming up, it's a classic game that we've all played, but now it's a movie. We're reviewing Battleship.
Today we are talking about the new movie from Peter Berg, Battleship.
That was me, Battleship.
Battleship, based on Hasbro. I think this all came from Hasbro with the Transformers, started kind of getting into the sort of like, hey, we've got all these IPs, these properties. Transformers made us $1 bazillion. Why don't we, like Marvel or somebody like that who has a big chunk of IP, start our own studio and make movies based on these board game properties or these toy properties that we own the rights to? So this is, they then went, you know what about Battleship?
That's the next logical step.
Let's B12 right into, and there isn't, I don't even think there's a 12. No, I think it goes to 14.
That's a vitamin.
Anyway, so Peter Berg is a director.
Friday Night Lights.
Friday Night Lights.
The Kingdom.
Which is his Iraq War movie. Basically, we're reading his Wikipedia page. Anyway.
But we know Peter Berg.
Yes.
He started out as an actor.
Yes.
Did
Fire
dark
in the
comedy.
Sky.
He started doing dark comedy.
He's done every He's done every genre, really. Anyway, Hancock. I just remembered that he did that. Hancock. So Battleship stars Taylor Kitsch, Alexander Skarsgård, Liam Neeson. Wow, there's a lot of people for me to get through. I almost said Blythe Danner. Blythe Danner's not in it.
No.
What's her name? Brooklyn Decker from somebody in the back. Brooklyn Decker.
This is not
and
going well.
basically, Taylor.
Yeah, you remember that time that
aliens came down during that naval exercise? This is that movie. It's based on that historical event.
Remember that time that Tim Riggins and Landry Clark joined the Navy?
And that guy from True Blood?
That's what this is. This is kind of like.
And Rihanna.
And Rihanna's there as well.
It's basically a weird dream somebody had. So Battleship follows these people in the Navy who are in the Navy doing an international exercise with the Japanese and the Australians and all this stuff. This naval exercise in Hawaii, and aliens land. There's
hit
sort
the
of
water. They land in the water.
The aliens land, and they put up this bubble shield on top of Hawaii.
Too many details.
And so the people who are inside the bubble shield are sort of this ragtag group of Navy people. And a movie ensues. Jeff Cannata, what did you think of Battleship?
Well, it's not an IP that I would leap to and say this demands movie treatment.
Right.
Although they did cleverly get to, going F-17, hit or miss,
And how they came up with the concept of one even needing to do that, but two, how they parlayed it into you're reading coordinates on a grid, and why? I thought it was actually kind of clever.
I agree.
I gave them a lot of props for that.
If the problem you're trying to solve is how do you make the fact that this is a board game relevant to a movie, they solved that pretty cleverly.
They did, most
Not a problem I needed to be solved, but you know.
No, but I mean, you go in and you're like, I wanted to say that.
So as a film, this movie is, it starts off pretty fun. It is definitely that loud, bombastic, in your face. It's basically Armageddon with lens flares, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, there aren't tons of lens flares, but
there's tons of lens flares. You didn't see 1,000 lens flares?
I saw like 5 or 6. I was like,
there's so many.
Flare.
Anyway, what Armageddon is, I was never a fan of the movie Armageddon. I know that flies in the face of a lot of our fans and a lot of the people that watch the show.
I liked Armageddon.
I did not care for that movie.
Yeah.
If you like that movie, I think you'll find some stuff to like here because it's very much that same, it hits those same beats. It's that same sort of jingoistic, we're in the military, football, tits,
soccer.
buffalo wings, that kind of like
soccer and burritos, but I gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, we start off, it's slow motion soccer and AC/DC cranked.
Right.
You know, this is a loud, we're going from one rock and roll beat song to going slow motion to another rock and roll song.
Yep.
It's that rhythm that very much was done in Armageddon.
Definitely.
But it doesn't insult the intelligence at the beginning. You know, we kind of have a very likable, in my opinion, leading man. It's a charming way he sort of meets the love interest in the beginning. A little over the top, but still charming.
Yeah.
I was with the movie. I was
When the aliens
suspending
showed up, how did that go?
You know, even that. We talk a lot about movies with JPMs, comedies, with JPMs, jokes per minute. This movie has EPMs, explosions per minute.
Yeah.
And if you like explosions, you're gonna get your dollar's worth. There's a lot of explosions,
Definitely
constant
more
explosions.
than $12 worth of explosions.
So many explosions.
Definitely.
And if you're a person that likes the rock and roll crank, the explosions constant, the action intense, I think you're gonna find a lot to like. Unfortunately, when we make that final turn into the third act and we're getting toward the climactic battle, it goes really lame. And I almost wonder if maybe we should spoil this, because I have some very specific thoughts about that. But I want to hear what you think, because this is more your kind of movie right off the top.
Yeah. You know, I thought there was a lot of the good things that I think this movie has going for it is, one, I think the action is done fairly well. I enjoyed most of the action. And I think there were some clever ideas with the action and with how the aliens interact and things like that. And that to me is always sort of, when you're gonna do an alien movie, I always like that little bit of like, well, what's the deal with these aliens? You know what I mean? Like and they had a lot of really cool concepts, like the designs of the vehicles that the aliens were in was really great. That the fact that they were sort of like those
like frogs.
Yeah,
almost,
well,
on
or
the
like
top
God, what are those?
paddling fish.
Yeah, no. The
Two syllables.
leap bugs, the leaping bugs, the bugs
or
that,
frogs.
Yeah, like the spiders that run across the water and
Yeah.
things like that. Which I thought was a really great idea, and it seemed like these weren't actual aircraft ships, that they had little flyy things, but that those were water ships. And so it then kind of, you know, all this stuff makes you go, wow, I wonder what their planet's like. It's probably all water or something like that. Like, why would they have flying things? You know, it just sort of was a very interesting thing. And some of the action is full on, like, top tier summer blockbuster action happening. I think where it falls apart for the most part is, for me, I never really got connected with the characters.
Right.
And I never really kind of got into, when the S was hitting the F, I really believe those guys are in that situation where the S is hitting the F.
Right.
You know what I mean? But when there were little character moments, I never bought any of that.
Right,
and I
agree.
think the
It's a little
thing that
soulless.
the thing that really elevates these summer blockbusters to like really good movies, not just explosions, is that when the stuff is not hitting the fan, which has to happen. I mean, you have to breathe, although this one didn't let you breathe very much. And the funny
yelled
thing
at
is,
you while you were bleeding.
It did. And the other thing is that a lot of the stuff came off as a little bit hokey or silly, and it's like, well, I don't want this to be silly right now. You know what I mean? But I will say there's a turn that happens in the third act, which is probably what you're talking about, which is when they sort of enlist the help of these veterans, these naval veterans. And as silly as some of the pictures are, it's
Really?
hard not to get affected. I was like laughing at the things like, oh my God, there's such a wacky situation. I'm not really buying any of this stuff. And then some of that time, I mean, because at the end of the day, there is part of that patriotism of like, yeah, these are people who have fought, and they probably are people who were Navy veterans.
Oh, I guarantee it.
That stuff was really, to me, was really surprising because it's also very tongue-in-cheek in the way that it was handled. But
I have a hard time criticizing it, as one might, because I think the heart is in the right place, but it is jingoistic. It is overtly sentimental, and it played. The thing about it is it perplexes me, because I sat there thinking, my dad was in the Navy, and I sat there thinking, my dad might, I don't know, I think he might really dig this moment where it's like, get the old guys. It's a little bit of Space Cowboys, right? That old Clint Eastwood movie. when that Space Cowboys moment happens in this movie, I wanted to feel something. I didn't. And I felt to myself, you know, it'd be awesome if I could go home and say, Dad, you should go see this, because what the movie was about was like, we gotta roll this old badass out of mothball, and the only way to do it is, I don't think he would get through all of that, the loud noise, the rock and roll, the bombast of the first 2/3 of this movie to get to that turn.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, who is this for? Because I think for a younger audience, it probably plays a little silly, and it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think this movie has an audience, and we're close to it. We're not it. We're close to it. Because, you know, a couple notches in one direction here and there, and this is a great movie. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't fire on all ports.
Yeah.
And there were moments where I was like, this is awesome. Like, shit is happening that is awesome right
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I was entertained. There's definitely a lull about 2/3 of the way through where I felt like, wow, nothing new is being introduced. And the sort of Battle of Endor sections where the people are on the, boy, those felt really clunky, and they didn't hold together very well, and I didn't care for any of the people involved. Yeah. And so it doesn't work, but it certainly doesn't fail as much as I thought it might.
Exactly, and I think that's the thing it's such a bad way to say, it's not as bad as I thought it would be, you know what I mean? But it really, truly isn't as bad as I thought it would be. I mean, when somebody even pitched the idea that they were doing a Battleship movie, I was like, well, that's gonna be horrible and I don't wanna see it. And then that Rihanna was gonna, and I have to say, Rihanna was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, take it or leave it, she didn't really do much, but I was like, believe me, that could have very well been the worst performance of, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of times when I hear the stunt casting of like a person who's not an actress, I kind of get that thing of like, oh God, this is gonna be bad.
I just wished we had some build up to what the battleship means. What does the battleship as a concept mean? I mean, when he's first getting on the ship, he has that little kid moment where he's like, a battleship is this, and the other ship is this. But it doesn't, there's no real information there. And so when we finally get into the battleship, I never felt the impact of that. I never felt like, oh, well, now the playing field is even or something. And then
I mean, I kind of did because of the fact that he made that whole concept of like the battleship's the tank and the destroyer just destroys everybody. Right. And we don't need tanks anymore on the water. And so for me, when that came, I was like, that's kind of what you need, is that thing that's not going to sink. You know what I mean? That badass.
I just wish it had been more than just a throwaway line to a little kid.
I wish it had
felt. I wish the movie had embraced what I think it kept flirting with, which is really being about the Navy. Yeah. Instead of, you know, it's about the Navy in the same way Armageddon's about space travel. You know what I mean?
Or mining. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Or offshore drilling.
Well, this could very well have been Act of Valor, but it's aliens, not bad guys. Yeah. You know what I mean? But anyway, so Battleship is a mixed bag, but when the bag explodes, it fucking explodes.
Well, it explodes over
so
if you
like explosions, which I do, I mean, I was enjoying the movie most of the time, which was, I did not think that was going to happen. So check it out, it's in theaters Friday. Battleship. All right, everybody, be sure to stick around. We're going to be answering one of your Twitter questions right after this, but first we want to thank our sponsor, Dan Trachtenberg.
Click It or Ticket is back in action. So in an effort to save more lives on America's roadways, state and local law enforcement agencies will be out in force nationwide from May 21st to June 3rd, 2012. That's Memorial Day,
the big sort of
week, where everyone's partying and drinking, and they should not be driving.
Correct.
So younger motorists, in particular young men, are most at risk. So among teens, young adults ages 18 to 34 who were killed in fatal crashes, 62% of them were not buckled up at the time of the crash.
That is so stupid.
The highest percentage of any group. I've
never felt comfortable not having my seatbelt on.
Yeah, it's true. I actually don't feel
I start widening and I'm like, why is it?
You're widening?
I'm widening around and I'm like,
I won't have my wheat well.
The number jumps to 66% when only men in this age group are included. Guys, you should buckle up every time you go out, both day and night. Law enforcement agencies across the country are prepared to ticket anyone not buckled up. No warnings and no excuses. Click it or ticket.
Bam and bam. All right, people, we will see you tomorrow.
Don't miss tomorrow when we review the movie The Dictator.
Today's Twitter question sent in with the hashtag #TRSQ from Guillermo Sprint at Sprint84. I just figured it'd just run right
or
through
hashtag.
it. Which with hashtag? What?
Send in with the hashtag #TRSQ.
Yeah, that's the hashtag.
Isn't that hashtag TRSQ?
Wait, yeah.
Send it with the hashtag.
He's been doing that for
Yeah.
weeks, and
You
you just
have?
noticed it.
Wow.
What am I gonna say? Send it in with the hashtag TRSQ.
Let's just send it with the hashtag TRSQ.
Yeah, but sometimes I like to explain that there's a pound in front of it.
Moving on.
All right.
Thank you, Sprint. What would you name your son or daughter? Would you name your son or daughter after someone in a movie or video game or comic book character? What would that name be if you would do that?
Okay, so this is not a new idea. A lot of people have done it.
Robin Williams.
Oh, no, I don't mean in general. I mean this particular character that I would.
You mean Robin
I
Williams?
mean, I have two.
I'm gonna name my kid Robin Williams.
He did Zelda.
Zelda, yeah.
Yeah.
I did two. I have two, and both of them have been done, and which are really cool. The first one has been done by a lot of people. In fact, George R.R. Martin on his website has baby pictures of all the people that have been named Daenerys, which is a freaking awesome name. A girl named Daenerys, which is it looks beautiful, and you can call her Dany. That's awesome. I think
that's awesome.
super awesome, right? And there's dozens and dozens of people have done that. The other one is super cool, Jor-El.
Yeah.
Jor-El is a great name for a boy, and I think wasn't it?
Kal-El is
Yeah, well, it's
Kal-El,
it's Nick Cage's son.
yeah.
Nick Cage's
But
son.
Jor-El is a great, and I like J names because I have a J name.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Dan?
Jor-El's a pretty girl's name.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Jirelian?
I feel like I talked to her in Terra as well. First of all, to answer the first part of the question, I would not name my child after a movie or video game character. But if I had to, I actually really like Master Chief. No. I really like Link. I think Link is very pretty.
Interesting.
For a chick
I'm
or a
sorry,
guy?
pretty?
I can go either
For
way.
an elf.
I can go
Yeah.
either way.
Look at those ears.
I
That's
think
totally a
more,
Link.
more for a girl, but man, there's.
I don't even name
Oh,
my
interesting.
Zelda character Link. I always change my name in Zelda.
Yeah, no, I do too.
Yeah.
But as a real life person, I like that.
Alex?
Yeah, I don't know if I would, because I don't know if I would be able to get that past the censor of my fiance.
What if she didn't know?
Well, that's
Did you hear
the
about
thing.
the guy
So
that just?
Luke would be one
Oh, Luke.
that I would
But
totally
that, you don't even have to
That's
say
not-
it's a.
But that's the point.
Yeah.
I know. And his middle name is Skywalker from Star Wars. So his whole full name will be Luke Skywalker from Star Wars Albrecht.
That's awesome.
There's some guy that just made a deal with his wife that if he could get enough people signed up.
A petition online or something?
Yeah, on his Facebook page or something for the kid, that he would get to name it. What was it? What was it? Did you hear about this, Mike? No. Oh, I'm gonna ruin this story for everyone, but everyone should just Google that. It was
That's a great
it was a
story,
ridiculous name. It was like,
Gobo Fraggle.
let's just go with that.
Yeah. So Luke, good question at Sprint84.